The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome. Thanks for joining us today. Can you hear me okay? Can we just have a quick check just to make sure that everything's working?
Yeah, we can hear you, Mark.
Yes, I've got a big yes in the chat. That's brilliant. Thank you. Perfect. Just move that there out of the way. Right, yeah, good morning, everybody. Welcome. Thanks for joining today. Really appreciate you taking time out to join us. My name is Mark Simpson, and I'm an Enterprise Sales Manager here at Citrix, and delighted to be hosting today's webinar. The purpose of today is really to introduce you all to the newest member of the Citrix family. The Wrike team officially joined Citrix earlier this year, and it really marks the next chapter in Citrix's ongoing mission to innovate the world of work. We've got an hour allotted for today's session that I'm going to kick off shortly. I'm going to try and provide some context into where Wrike fits into the overall Citrix vision and strategy. I'll then be joined by MJ, who will provide a slightly deeper dive into Wrike, what it is, where and how we're helping our customers today. And then we're incredibly grateful to be joined by one of our existing customers. Hannes Leitner from Siemens will talk us through their Wrike journey, covering some of the key use cases and the value that they've experienced so far throughout the partnership. We should have some time at the end for questions. So if anyone wants to pop a question into the chat for MJ or Hannes to answer, or even myself, please do, and we should have some time at the end to get through those. And if we're really slick on timings, we should have time for a demo at the end. If we don't, then that's no problem. We will organise a follow-up session for that. This isn't going to be the last webinar that we run on Wrike, so there'll be plenty of other opportunities. And in fact, if anyone is really keen for a demo, please just pop the word demo in a chat, and we'll be able to follow up afterwards and organise a personal demonstration later on. Right, so let's get going in that case. Let's move that on. So moved on, yeah. So as I said, I'm going to start by just providing a little bit of context into where Wrike fits into the overall Citrix vision and strategy. So for over the last 30 years, we've pretty much been peddling the same message at Citrix, and that started in 1991 with remote working, and the idea that work is not a place, it's a thing that you do. And this has been our mantra now for over the last 30 years. And throughout our history, Citrix has always been a step ahead. We've been anticipating the change in demand by the market, the changing demands by our customers, and also the changing demands at an individual employee level as well. So this slide calls out some of the key events in that history that have kept us a step ahead and helped our customers solve the challenges and capture the opportunity in the future of work. So yeah, as I said, 1991 was really the beginning. Started with remote application, providing remote access. This was really the first time that employees were able to access their work from outside of the office. 2010, that developed into VDI, providing virtual desktops to handle perhaps more performance hungry applications and workloads. 2013 was a really big year for Citrix. It was the year that iPads exploded onto the enterprise. There was a proliferation of different mobile devices within our customers, and we were all scrabbling around to find new use cases to be able to benefit from these new devices that were providing value in our personal lives. We wanted to provide that value into the organization. It was an important year because we learned how to manage the balance between mobile user security and mobile user experience. We worked out very early in that journey that it's very easy to lock down a mobile device when it's outside of your organization. You can turn on multiple layers of authentication, and you can really secure that data to make sure that it's secure and locked away, but that really does have a negative impact on user experience. So for us, 2013 was about trying to learn how to balance that user experience with security to ensure that we protected what was important, but also allowed users to be able to be productive and benefit from that new style of device. It was also the first year that we put customer services into the cloud. So really important part in our journey. 2017, another big year. This was really about bringing together the full secure digital workspace, unifying secure access to any application. And that was Windows applications, web applications, and SaaS applications. And today that really enables customers to benefit from zero trust and also SASE frameworks. In the theme of being one step ahead, when our customers joined us on this journey with secure workspace and Citrix cloud journey in 2017, 2018, and 2019, they did so for many different reasons. Primarily infrastructure optimization, or to reduce engineering and operational effort required to deliver desktops and applications to their user base across the world, or perhaps the ability to rapidly scale, to open up into new regions, or to open up new use cases quickly. Very few of those customers did so to enable BCP or to allow working from home. Now, what's interesting with that, however, is that of course all of those customers that did get early on that journey with us were incredibly well placed to react to the unprecedented events of early 2020, and in fact the continuing impact of COVID-19 has on the workplace today. 2019 was our first toe in the water when it came to workplace automation with workspace intelligence, and this was really our first effort of automating work. Previously, our focus was on unifying work, organizing work. This was really a step into trying to automate work, creating productivity gains for users, automating certain work tasks wherever possible. And then in 2021, we saw the acquisition of Wrike, and that was to support efficient work execution and collaboration across any work type. Wrike is really the last step in changing the way that work gets done within the enterprise. And I'll talk a little bit more about that on the next slide. So we have a vision at Citrix in terms of what the future enterprise looks like, the problems that will need solving, and the opportunities that are there to be capitalized on. And as I mentioned on a previous slide, for years Citrix has solved those critical operational challenges. So on the left-hand side here of this slide, you can see I've called out protecting and optimizing operations from security breaches or from pandemics. So protecting our organizations, allowing us to continue working in the event of a major disruption of some sort. We've been helping our customers do that for many years. New market entrants, I did briefly touch on this earlier. This is really about mergers and acquisitions, reducing the time to value for our customers who are onboarding new teams into their organization, or new individuals into their organization, or driving into new geographies to grow their market share in particular parts of the world. We've been working with our clients for many years, enabling them to do that and really reduce the time to value and optimizing the return that they get from these business decisions. The other area that I've called out, the last one on the list, partnering innovation. This one is a really key one for us, certainly within the UK enterprise business. This is our largest use case. And what I'm talking about here is third-party access or BPO access. Our customers are blurring the lines between their own organizations and their partners' organizations to get work done together. As I said, this is one of the critical parts of what Citrix has delivered in the past. This is really our heritage. So the addition of Wrike into the Citrix portfolio allows our customers to build on that heritage and to deliver the last mile of digital transformation. Wrike helps you optimize your processes, reduce inefficiencies, and automate the repetitive aspects of your work. It also surfaces key data to help you make better business decisions. Many of our customers are 80% through their digital transformations, but few have actually received that full 80% of the benefit. They spent time and they spent budget digitizing businesses, And of course, having that right digital platform in place is a real critical part of the puzzle. But another one is how you use it, how you come together as a team to benefit from these systems that are in place and get work done together. Our customers are looking for help from us, not just to implement digital transformation, but to manage that change as well. Welcoming Wrike into the Citrix family also means that we continue to deliver on our commitment to improve work for our customers' most valuable assets, and that's their people. Wrike reduces email, reduces meetings, supercharges individual productivity, and allows teams to collaborate with context, work together with unity. What's really interesting actually is been to see how our own journey with Wrike has played out inside our organization. We only really started our internal journey with Wrike this summer. And it started with small groups, early adopters using Wrike to manage their own to-do lists. And then it's really started to rapidly grow across all teams and all functions of our business. We're now at the point where we're really trying to standardize as much as we can, much work as possible through global blueprints. We can learn from each other, create standards, and really streamline some of the work that we're doing. This is really driving to a far more streamlined execution of work for us within Citrix, and we're excited of the opportunity this provides us internally. So that's all fairly high level. So I'm going to pass over now to MJ to dig a little deeper into what Wrike is and how our customers are using it today. And then we're going to welcome Hannes on to talk a little bit about his own personal experiences with Wrike as well. MJ, you good to go?
Good to go. Quick sound check. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we've got you, MJ. I'm going to flick onto your slide as well. There we go. Over to you.
Great stuff. I won't take too long. So these couple of slides I'm going to show you guys is just to give the audience a message to what Wrike actually does and what it is and how it's best used. So for me, I've been working at Wrike for about 4.5 years now. I'm based out of Dublin in Ireland, if my accent didn't give it away. It's where our European headquarters is. And you know, Wrike is all about helping customers do the best work that they can do every day. It's about, you know, making teams collaborate more effectively. It enables visibility to the people that need to see where work is, what the current status is, if the due dates are going to be met. It streamlines processes not just across an individual department, but multiple departments, and automates workflows as well. And the good, you know, thing about Wrike, or the beauty of it, is it's not niche to any particular industry or vertical. You know, you can have a sales team using a Salesforce, or, you know, a different HR team using a Workday, for example. Any team that has a piece of work that has a start and a finish date and has people accountable for various, you know, different stages of that work can be managed more effectively on Wrike. So we have customers in the marketing space that use us. In Anger, we have, you know, operations teams, professional services teams, creative. The image on the right hand side of the screen is really a picture that, you know, Wrike can be the single source of truth for everybody within a department in you know, an entire enterprise organization. And you'll hear more about that from Hannes. Next slide, please, Mark. And I just wanted to give, you know, the audience a bit of a flavor of Wrike as a company. Yes, we are now part of Citrix, but we were and have been the enterprise leader in the collaborative work management space for quite some time now. And that term, collaborative work management, was put on this space about 2 years ago because it was a really fast growing space. Some people perceived Wrike as a workflow tool, some a project management tool. It's really a number of different things. And the term CWM came to life about 2 years ago. But in that space, as I said, we're the market leader. We've got over 20,000 customers, over 2 million users. We have data centers on both sides of the Atlantic. The customers on the right-hand side that you see, they're not just small pockets of a creative team using Wrike, you know, for 5 people or 10 people. As you'll hear from Hannes in Siemens, thousands of users across 20 plus territories within Siemens use Wrike at scale for, you know, very small ad hoc projects on a day-to-day basis, or, you know, projects that span a couple of years and, you know, cost in the hundreds of millions. So that's pretty much it. That's Wrike as a company. That's a little bit about what we do. Before we move into, you know, Hannes and him talking about what Siemens have done with Wrike over the past number of years, is I'd like to just say to the audience, think about how many tabs you have open on your desktop at the moment or on your browser. You probably have a Google spreadsheet, an Excel spreadsheet, emails, and think about the amount of different systems that you use just within your individual department to communicate with your colleagues, and then scale that up to more departments on a global scale and think to yourself, how many different systems would be in place for something like that in my organization right now, because it's not something people think about a lot of the time. And Hannes will go into what they've done with Wrike to help consolidate and streamline processes and improve productivity across so many people in multiple departments in Siemens. And yes, I'm sure you guys will enjoy it. Hannes, over to you.
Yes, thank you, MJ. You guys can hear me right?
Yeah, we've got you, Hannes.
Very good. Yeah, no, thank you for inviting me here. My name is Hannes Leitner. I work here at the global headquarters of Siemens Smart Infrastructure in Zug in Switzerland. Yeah, I will give you a few insights into what Siemens is, and then dive straight into, let's say, our journey with Wrike, which started, yeah, I think just before MJ actually joined Wrike, were like 5 years ago. So yeah, please go to the next slide, Mark. So yeah, Siemens is quite a big company, as many of you probably know. It has gone through some transitions also lately, but let's say the solutions we offer, they go in the same direction for quite a while, and we are now, yeah, we call ourselves the core of Siemens, where also the part I work in, called now Siemens Smart Infrastructure, is part of. And there's also Siemens Healthineers, also, yeah, used to be named Siemens Medical, and also Siemens Energy, that are part, let's say, of the Siemens family. What we focus on the smart infrastructure side, we also transformed from what used to be building technologies with other units of Siemens that provide digital grids, distribution systems, and so on. So we formed that to address some of the great challenges of our times in that part in the middle here, to make industries more competitive, to offer efficient infrastructure. It's getting more and more decentralized, so we're trying to find solutions for that, offer sustainable use of resources, and so on. So that part I will deep dive a little bit. Next slide, please, Mark. Yeah, before I do that, Siemens as its core that you've just seen in the middle, we have around yeah, close to 300,000 employees at the moment, together with the Healthineer part and energy, that would be around 450,000. And we come to a revenue of approximately 60 billion per year. Next slide, please. As I said, I will zoom in a bit into the area that I work in, that we use Wrike for. This is all around what we call smart buildings. I'm not going to get in every field of that slide, but the one circled in red, or the few parts circled in red, that's our let's say traditional, or we also call it a bit bread and butter industry, on the fire safety side, security side, and building automation. So we it's all about buildings. We're in that business for quite a long time. Obviously, we are going into or we have gone into a digital journey. I will come later to that, where Wrike also plays quite a part. But this part I will tell you more about. Next slide, please. So yeah, I was asked to also speak about our journey of why we came to use Wrike. And obviously, we as a company, yeah, we are now more than 173 years old. So we are obviously using in the various units that I've shown you many different tools. We do also all kind of different businesses, from product business to solution service business. But in the solution business or in the project area, we do from very large projects, turnkey solutions for power plants, as an example. Especially the part I work in, in the building technology part, we do a lot of small projects that other parts of Siemens or maybe other customers they wouldn't even call projects. They would, I don't know. We also call them small works, by the way. But this is a real important part of our business, where a substantial part of our revenue comes from. So our typical project manager of these many small projects has quite some challenges. I start here on the right. One of the main one is, how do I handle 30 to 50 projects simultaneously? So it's not you know, what we also know at Siemens, as I mentioned, one project manager of a whole team managing one large project over, I don't know, 2-3 years or even more. This is really many projects at the same time, and this is extremely important here, we have to be extremely efficient. And just because they are small, and we'll come to that later, doesn't mean that within this small project we still have to collaborate with quite many parties. So that's where also Wrike comes into place. Some other questions that led us to really look out for a good solution for that is to get all team members at the same level of information, which is not easy if you have Excels and other documents flying around. Having a tool where everybody has the same look on the milestones. Let's see here, where is this project? Is this running well or not? And again, this over a huge number of projects. And last but not least, on that slide, to have an optimal workflow that is conformed to internal processes is also extremely important for us. I'll come to that. We are on a digital journey to be successful there. We also need to get more and more standardized. And in the company that has grown over many decades and even centuries, but let's go with decades for now. Yeah, processes have not all grown the same direction. So Wrike really helps us to get that piece by piece together. Drive standardization, and by this drive automation, and by this also drive digitalization. So this is, in a nutshell, reasons that brought us to look for good tools to help us there, and that's how we found Wrike as for us the best tool to help us with these challenges. I mentioned before, even though the projects are small, I mean, not all of them, but many of them, maybe 80%, are in the range of around 50 to 100,000 euros. Still, in almost every project, we interact with installation partners, with commission engineers, internally, customers, of course, business administration. On the sales side, we need to have also the data around that were created in the sales process, and quality and health services extremely important for us as well. On the right, you see MJ mentioned it as well. Yeah, those are just some examples of tabs you might have opened, or we had, of course, still have partially, but what we managed to reduce quite substantially is to get many of those tools combined into Wrike. Many of those tools, they were publicly available tools, like people used privately as well, WhatsApp, Dropbox, and so on. But of course also Excels, PDFs. Not only that we have a problem, that to get people on the right, on the same information level. Another problem we had was that these tools that were used, because there was nothing around that suited our purposes, so there's nobody to blame there. So people used the tools that they saw, they have experience as being very efficient in their private use. But the problem is that they're also not secure, not secure to our Siemens standards. So that was another big reason why we entered the journey into Wrike, with Wrike. Next slide, please. So I already touched some of the main benefits. If you start on the right, digital transformation, needing standardization, needing automation, and for us, Wrike is really helping there a lot. I'll come a bit more into that. IT security I mentioned, especially replacing many of the public available tools. And also there we went on a journey with Wrike because we had to do this together. It took us a while, but we worked together there. Our say Siemens security departments, but together with Wrike departments to get Wrike to one of what we call confidentiality level, that we could actually place the information in there that we need, for the purposes I mentioned. PM at Siemens is our methodology for project management. There we defined processes, milestones, and so on. It was important for us that this is part of it. It's kind of our common language and standard for that. Data quality, I mentioned that it's part of standardization. Without good data quality, you cannot digitalize. It's impossible. Wrike helps us to do that. Employee satisfaction, giving people a tool that works fast, that works efficient, obviously also helps us keeping our employees happy and satisfied. And together with improved customer experience, this is, it's quite often also about money, of course, productivity and revenue impact. Our main focus there was labor cost reduction. As I said, we are in our many small, but obviously on the bigger projects, but in the many small ones, we are extremely tight in our margins, so we cannot afford to lose anything to enter the data twice, to lose time in collaborating, looking at different versions of documents and so on. So for us, labor reduction, being more productive was really key, and obviously it's helped by all the other points that I mentioned. Next slide. Thank you. Standardization, as I mentioned, it's maybe not one of the most sexy topics. It's also here at Siemens, it's something that obviously everybody wants and knows that it's necessary, but to really drive it and to it's not the thing that you turn the flip a switch and now we're standardized. It's really a process. You need good tools. You need an alliance to drive that. And I mentioned some of the points, but the middle one here, to have standardized workflows, to have dashboards that are easily configurable and so on, really helps that process. So standardization for us really key. It's without that we cannot do what we are planning to do in the future and right now. Next slide, please. it builds on standardization to automate. You have to have certain standards. So we automate our project creation. So we don't start our process in Wrike. Process usually starts in the sales phase, or even since we're in the lifecycle business, we do a lot of I don't know, modernization, extensions to existing buildings. So there's data around, and we want to use them. So a project manager taking over a project in Wrike immediately has a set of data. He has a predefined template which is tailored to his business. And in our fire safety, we have different, kind of standard tasks. Some are the same, but some are also different than in our security automation business. So this all comes automatically. We provide that. We have interfaces to our to other sales, but also our financial systems to make ourselves with our employees as efficient as possible. Yeah, that's those some topics I wanted to touch here. And yeah, I don't like to talk for too long, without getting into discussion. So yeah, if there's any questions, I hope I can answer them, and pass over to MJ.
Thanks, Hannes. So there's a couple of questions from me, and then I've one from the audience so far. Can you talk, Hannes, a little bit about the organic growth of Wrike within Siemens? You've been with us for 5 years now, as you've said, and you didn't start out with thousands of users on the system. And as we know, we're all creatures of habit, human beings, and we don't like change, even though we may have 20 tabs open with 5 different Excel spreadsheets for managing work. We know it's not effective, but we don't like change. So how you were able to understand change management in advance has played a part in ensuring the successful adoption of Wrike, at the scale that you guys use it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, mentioned it's around 5 years ago, more or less, that we started this journey. I think the good thing was it was not a top-down approach. It was we got kind of pulled from various countries and certain people there that said, hey, we need something there. And that's also where we started then to work with those people who expressed the need, but also we made it a very collaborative approach with our headquarters to work together on that. So it's we started with 2 to 3 countries here in Switzerland, but also in Germany and US, to have a kind of a proof of concept for ourselves that it would work on a small but also on an international scale. And from there we grew, I would say organically, and a lot was driven by also a pull effect and let's say peer-to-peer communication. I would think that it works like this in many other companies. Me working from headquarters, I'm not as much trusted in our countries, as their peers in other countries. So for us, being successful in those first countries I mentioned, those are countries where let's say our process maturity is a very high one, which is not the case everywhere, but so they were replacing existing processing tools which have been optimized over the years, which is not easy to do. It's really you need to be quite mature as a tool process that you offer as replacement to do that. So that's how we grew. To your other question, MJ, yeah, obviously myself, but also the team around me, we have done, let's say, other change management projects before, and Wrike is also about change management and looking at internally. One of the first things we did is to think of when we envisioned what Wrike could do for us, how it could be used. We also thought, how would we measure that use, and what would ideal usage mean for us, and how would we measure that? Because also there, it's also all about transparency, and we know, even though there is a pull effect from certain countries, there will always be other ones which will be tougher, to drive that change, and we need to have transparency on that, not kind of verbal, though they are not doing so well and those are doing better, but really a dashboard that shows us exactly from, let's say, regional down to country, down to branch level. We are a huge organization, how to, where we stand and where we want to go. So we included those dashboards also into our, general KPIs as one of our key strategic initiatives to drive the changes that I already talked about.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that, Hannes. Makes a lot of sense. You mentioned that there was another question about security risk, but I think you covered that within your presentation. One from the audience is, do you feel like a valued Wrike customer, and how?
Yeah, the simple answer is yes. Yeah, how? I think there's various answers to that. I mean, one thing that was always important for us is that we could be part of the Wrike product development. And obviously, as we did, also Wrike is on a journey, a company that has been around for a while, but still being very agile and growing. For us, having a voice in that product development, to be part of the discussions, to be always asked to be, test out things early, to hear things early, was really important for us, because we also internally needed to communicate what's coming, but also, we're also under pressure, say, hey, this is not there yet, so when is it coming, and so on. So to having to being close to Wrike on that was very important for us. That's one thing. The other thing is also for me and for my managers, to having a really close relation, let's say, also up to the Wrike CEO, Andrew Filev, was also key when it came to when there's issues, when we talk about I don't know, a new contract, for example. For us, for our management to also promote Wrike here at Siemens, which is there's alternatives always. It's a huge company. Having this closeness was really also key for us to be successful.
Yeah.
Yes, I think those are some key elements. And yeah, also MJ, you being one of our key partners in that, having reach into your organization, that was also key for me, and for us to grow as we could grow and to be successful as we are so far.
Sure, and thank you for that, Hannes. One last question before we move, I believe, to a demo, because we do have time, is from somebody in the audience called Rob. There are some tools which are, standardized in certain businesses. Have Siemens integrated Wrike with other tools? Surely you must have, with so many users. Can you talk a little bit about that? That's the question.
Yes, yeah, there's various integration. I mean, for us, I think I mentioned that SAP as a, let's say, financial logistical system is an important tool that we integrated to. Obviously, we're doing a lot with Wrike, but not everything. So we we need this integration. Another one, we are a big customer of Microsoft as well. We're using Microsoft 365 for emailing. We're using Teams now, Microsoft Teams for for meeting and meetings and so on. So we have also with Teams, we have started to build an integration to make that move closer together. Let me think. There might be more, but I think those are the most important ones. I mean, it's not always a kind of a full integrations. What we also do is we kind of build dynamic links, what we call. So if a project manager wants to know more about our install base, a certain customer, we deliver also a link that he can go to another tool to do that, but then already having all the parameters that he doesn't need to, to search for the right customer and so on. So that's also an important part of integration that we do.
Yeah, okay. Lovely, Hannes, perfect. So just before we move to the demo, one of our colleagues, Benita, is going to drop a link into the chat for the audience. It's a link to the case study that we published recently. And the audience, if you want to learn more information about the use case within Siemens, the departments using Wrike across Siemens, the feature highlights, how they've improved 10% productivity or more across 14,000 users in so many different territories, please have a look at that link. And we're going to move to the demo now. Hannes, thank you very much again for the time and the effort here and the engagement. It's been great. And I believe Mark Jones, our colleague, is going to take over now for the demo. Over to you, Mark.
Yeah, fantastic stuff. Thanks so much for that, MJ and Hannes. Welcome again, and thank you so much for telling us all about the great work happening at Siemens. MJ, you might just confirm for me that you are actually able to see my Wrike screen at the moment.
We can see it.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, fantastic, folks. So, pleasure to meet you all. Thank you so much for joining today. My name is Mark Jones. I'm a global account executive here at Wrike and work with some of our largest customers to bring them through their evaluation journey. And a big part of that is demonstrating the value that Wrike would bring to the organization. So, we've got about 20 minutes left on the webinar, so it's going to be a little bit of a whistle-stop tour of Wrike at the moment. And as everybody can see on my screen, I'm just going to take you through what a typical flow in Wrike might look like for a PMO. So what you see on the screen at the moment is the Wrike home screen. We've got our notifications on the left-hand side of the screen. So when you log in on a daily basis, this is your first port of call. This is where you get notified about new tasks or projects that may have been assigned to you, or when you get app mentioned. So a little bit like social media, we have the ability to obviously collaborate on all of our tasks and projects and centralize that communication in Wrike instead of having those endless email chains. And I'll come to that as we progress through the demo. So after we've gotten caught up on all of our notifications, we have a couple more items which you see in the middle of the screen. And the first of those three is our spaces section. So what you'll see here is we have them broken out almost by department. So one for the PMO, the IT team, operations, HR, or if we're working with third-party agencies and partners, we can also bring those into Wrike and give them their own workspace to operate from. And these workspaces essentially allow teams to lock down their projects and tasks to maintain governance and set the right visibility controls when it comes to those projects. Now, of course, as Wrike is a CWM or collaborative work management tool, you can cross-tag those projects into various spaces and get other departments and teams working with you on them. And that, of course, prevents any duplication of data and keeps it all up to date. In the middle of the screen, we've got a recent section, and that pretty much does what it says in the tin. This is recent items that we've been clicking on and recent items that we've been working with, so we can have quick access to them if we need to. The final section, and one that I really like, is our pinned section. Again, does what it says in the tin. It's a little bit like bookmarks. So if I always need quick access to a particular dashboard I'm working on, or a report I always want to view, or maybe a workload chart, I can pin that to my home page and access it whenever I need to. Now on the right hand side, there are a couple of more items which we refer to as tools within Wrike. We've got things like calendars, dashboards, reports, workload charts, and I'll come to them again as we progress through the demo. But what you see is essentially a nice clean interface and allows you to always find the work that matters most and easily navigate through the system. Wrike very much prides itself on being a simple tool to use, in that you don't need technical skills and knowledge, and you certainly don't need to have project management skills and knowledge either. It's all very much point and click. And people say, well, how do we kick off projects and how do we kick off tasks within the system? Of course, that can be done manually, but we also have an item called request forms, which I'm going to come to in just a moment. This button here on the top right corner of the screen is known as the Quick Create button. From here, I can pretty much create any object that I like within the system. And again, that's our standard projects, tasks, and folders. But as I mentioned earlier, we also have a feature known as request forms. So in a lot of PMOs, we talk to our customers and say, well, you know, how do you get requests, or how do projects even begin? And typically they tell us, you know, it's an email, it might be a knock on the office door, or a phone call, or God forbid, it might be a sticky note that's left on your desk. Well, the real question there is, what do you do after you receive that information? A lot of the time, the information is either maybe incorrect, or it's we've only got part of the information that we need. So in an effort to centralize all of these requests, we released this feature, and it enables our customers to essentially gather up all the information they need at the very beginning of that project process. What this does is it removes the need for follow-up calls, follow-up meetings, or anything like that, and allows us to get all the information we need at the beginning to kick off that project. Now, these request forms are fully customizable. So we've lots of different fields available here, whether it's free texts, checklists, drop downs, date fields, budget fields, whatever the case may be. So I'm just going to start off with some dummy information. I'm going to call this Siemens project. It's going to be for project and program management. I'm going to need 16 to 20 people. There's my project cost, and we're going to need this delivered by the end of November. It's just going to be comprehensive services. Now, if I have any files that I want to attach, I can also do this on the request form. So that might be Excels, PDFs, Word documents, it might be financial documentation like a purchase order or anything like that. What I can do is attach that there and submit it. Now, these request forms can also be made publicly available. So these can be placed on an intranet site that you might have within the business, or on a different external website that you have. So anybody can submit this form and kick off that project request process. And what's happened here, and what you see on the screen, is a new project has been created within my PMO team space. And what you see on the left-hand side of the screen is a very simple folder structure that I have here within Wrike. So I have a folder that takes in any new project requests that are coming in. I have one for active, one for completed, and many other folders that I might have there. So I can actually structure the data in Wrike in whatever fashion that I prefer to make it easily accessible and make sure everything is easy to find. In the middle of the screen, you're going to see the list of tasks associated with this project. Now, you're probably wondering, well, how did the system know to create these particular tasks? Within Wrike, we have a feature known as blueprints, and that's essentially Wrike terminology for templates. So if your work is repeatable, you do a lot of the same stuff every single time you create that project, you can simply build templates into Wrike. And based on the selections that people make on the request form, you can decide what template to actually fire up once it's submitted. And this removes a little bit of manual effort from your day-to-day. It stops you having to manually recreate those projects, or God forbid, build them from scratch every single time. Now, I'll come back to those tasks in just a minute, because no doubt you've noticed a couple of the views that we have across the top of the screen. I'll come back to that in just a second. On the right-hand side, we see what's known as the drill down screen, and this gives us the details about that project. So up here, we've got our title, which was captured on the request form. It's got a status of new, and that workflow can be customized, and it's been automatically assigned to me. Again, that's part of the logic in those request forms, which is automatically routed it to myself for approval. And that's the next piece that we see here. So if you're a business that takes in a large volume of requests and you're trying to manage expectations with stakeholders, you're trying to manage capacity and timelines, you want to be able to actually approve or reject based on the requirements of that project. And in order to do that, I need to see what those requirements are. And they're captured in this description section that we see here in the middle of the screen. So all the information that's contained on that request form is now pushed directly into the project. I have all the information that I need at my disposal to either approve or reject this project. Now, what I'm going to do for the sake of the demo is go ahead and hit approve, but I want you to keep an eye on two small things for me. The first one is the status that you see here, and the second one is the actual location of the project. So we can see here the Siemens project is located in my new requests folder. So I'm going to go ahead and hit approve. I can add in some commentary if I wish. So if I had rejected it for a various reason, I can give feedback as to why. I don't need to send in anything, so I'll click don't send. And what you'll have noticed instantly is that, first of all, the status is automatically updated to in progress, and it's also disappeared from my new requests folder. And if I drop down active projects, I should see it located right here. So then Wrike, we have an automation engine, which allows us to build simple automations in the back end of Wrike. Again, point and click, no code whatsoever. And it allows me to kind of shift work around in the system, change or update workflows, and also reassign it to different users if I wish. Again, removing one of those manual steps from the process. Now moving on and to our tasks, we can see at the moment that all of them are unassigned. We'll come back to that in just a second as we move into workload and capacity management. Just want to briefly touch on the different views that we have available to us in Wrike. So Hannah's touched a little bit on change management, and that's a big part of what our professional services team actually does for our customers, is moving people away from legacy systems, be they Excel or be they Jira or a multitude of other competitors that we might have. And we appreciate that change is hard. And one of the ways we try to accommodate that change is by offering different views of the data within Wrike, but still maintaining that data consistency. So what I see here is a list view of all the tasks that I have. We also have a Kanban style board view that we can switch to, and we can just drag and drop our tasks into the various statuses that we might have. We have an Excel style table view for those who love Excel and don't wish to move away from it. We've got all of our columns and fields available to us here. And then of course, for classic project management, we do have our Gantt chart available to us as well. And this Gantt chart is fully interactive as well. So I can drag and drop tasks around on the screen and update those dates. I can create dependencies between my tasks. And of course, I can actually create the milestones for those projects as well to make sure that everything remains connected. And that's what's absolutely key here. All of these views that you see are all connected and all in real time. So irrespective of the view that a user uses, once they make an update to that tool on the Gantt chart, that update is reflected across the table view, the board view, and the list view as well. So people can choose to work in whatever fashion that they prefer, and you make that change management process just a little bit easier as well. So let me go back to my list view. And then at the project level here, we see lots of custom fields at our disposal, so you can capture additional information beyond the standard fields that we have as well and report out on that. And if we scroll down a little bit further, what I see in here is something called the activity stream. Okay, and this is really where we capture any changes to tasks or any changes to projects as well. I mentioned at the start about app mentions and the notifications you get in your inbox. Well, this is really where Wrike kind of comes into its own in terms of being a collaborative work management tool. I've now got a project that I have approved. I'm happy with the information that's been given to me. I know we can take on the project. So I want to actually go ahead and assign it to somebody to take on and assign the different resources. So down in my activity stream, I can actually app mention some of my colleagues that I'm working with. I'm going to choose Steve, just for example's sake. I'm going to say, Steve, has your team got capacity to take this on? And we can very quickly send that comment into the project. Steve here will get a notification in his inbox within Wrike. He can then jump into the project, view the requirements, the associated tasks, and determine if his team can actually take on the work. So instead of those endless email chains that you might have with your various team members, you can do all of your communication within Wrike, centralize all of that communication, and have a single source of truth when it comes to the collaboration on the project. I love to also think about this in the sense of when team members may roll off a project, what happens to all that information, and when new team members roll onto the project as well. Instead of them having to schedule meetings to get them up to speed, you now have everything directly within Wrike. Further on to that is we can actually attach files directly into the project and task. So some of you may be using cloud storage systems like SharePoint, OneDrive, Google Drive, Dropbox, Box, or even just collaborating or attaching files from your hard drive. That can be all be done directly within Wrike as well. So when you integrate with a cloud storage system like Google Drive, again, that's point and click, and we can create a bridge to the file. Or if you're using a digital asset management system like Media Valet and Binder, again, we've point and click integrations with all of those systems. So now you can centralize your file storage directly within Wrike and make sure everybody is still working off the exact same version of it as well. We're running a little bit tight on time, so I'm going to progress through this demo a little bit quicker. Now that we've got our project and Steve is going to take it on, he wants to make sure that he's actually got capacity to do it. So from here, we're able to jump into our workload chart and very quickly, at a glance, get an understanding of the availability of our team and if they can take on the work. So what you see in front of you now is the resource management chart or workload chart for those on our team. So we've got all of our individuals on the left-hand side, and more importantly, we've got their job roles as well. So we want to make sure that we're assigning the right work to the right people at the right time. So not only do we get a view of what kind of job role everybody has, we get an understanding of their capacity. And that's visualized by the numbers that you see on the screen. So what we can see here in Wrike, and particularly for Steve, is that on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, he's actually quite busy. He's got 6 hours worth of work. But on Thursday and Friday, he has a little bit less. So where you see the zeros and the white boxes, that indicates that no work is assigned to that individual for that particular day. And as we assign more tasks to them, the boxes actually start to fill up, and that gives us our visual indication of how busy somebody is. Now, typically in Wrike, as standard, a working day is 8 hours long, but that is customizable. So for those who job share or maybe work part-time or just work on reduced hours, we can get control over that. So for someone like Steve here, we can see he's on a 6-hour day. And at the moment, he's been assigned 6 hours worth of work on those particular days. And it gives us that visual indication of the red box that he's now maxed out. So if I know that I actually need to give Steve a little bit more important work, I can very quickly take this off him, and I can see he's a project manager. So I'm going to reassign this to Neil through drag and drop and give that work to Neil. And we can see that his hours have automatically changed. Now within Wrike, we get control over the amount of effort that's allocated to tasks, whether that's 2 hours per day, 4 hours per day, whatever way we want to set it up, we can accommodate that. And assigning that work is particularly easy. So with my backlog box, I get a list of tasks that need to be assigned to people, and I can see exactly how much effort and duration is associated with them as well. So I can very quickly actually scroll forward in my workload chart to get the particular or correct days up. So we can see that this task needs to be completed on the 28th of October. I can see lots of people are available. I can take that task and I can go ahead and drag and drop it onto Darrell's workload chart. And I can do the same with all of those tasks. So this workload chart is fantastic of giving us an idea of who is busy, who is available, but it also lets us manage capacity a little bit better as well. So we can go ahead and scroll forward into the various months that we have here, or we can go ahead and zoom out and gives ourselves a better idea of what's happening at a monthly level or maybe at a quarterly level. So we're going into Q4 now. We might actually be planning for Q1 and Q2 of next year. So we can very quickly get a bird's eye view of everything that's happening in the business and whether we have capacity or not to take on additional projects that are coming in the door. Moving on from our workload management, we now take a look at dashboard and reporting. So we've only got a minute left. I'm going to show the standard dashboard that we have within Wrike. These again are fully customizable. You can use these in team meetings, is where I see them used an awful lot. And these widgets that we see on the screen can be used to display whatever kind of information we like. So instead of creating up-to-date Excels and update reports and PowerPoints for every team meeting that we're going into, we can actually take a look at this dashboard, which is updated in real time, and get an at-a-glance view of things like how our various projects are coming along. Are there any approvals that are maybe creating bottlenecks on a project and we need to get done? We can take a look at what tasks are currently overdue and swarm on them to make sure that they get completed on time, or maybe get quick access to files if we're working on a really important project. So this dashboard that you see here is done from a team perspective, but you might have individual dashboards for your own personal work, or maybe one for a particular project that you're working on as well. The final piece, just because we're at the top of the hour now, is a little bit around the reporting available to you within Wrike with a feature known as Wrike Analyze. And this is our homegrown BI tool, which really brings the data to life within the business. So with lots of out-of-the-box dashboards that you can leverage for things like specific project progress. For a PMO team, you might have a PMO style dashboard to give you an at-a-glance view of everything that's happening with those projects. And of course, these dashboards are fully interactive as well. So you can actually dig into the data that you have at your disposal. You'll see all those dates and figures changing as well. And if you zoom back out of those, of course, all of that data resets. If you're looking at capacity, utilization, workload, we also have one of those dashboards out of the box as well, where we can get an at-a-glance view of whose utilization is extremely high, or maybe if we're in a billing capacity, who's billing hours and who's not billing hours as well, and exactly where all of our users are actually spending their time. So that's a kind of a whistle-stop tour of Wrike. I'm going to take a pause there, and I'm going to defer back to MJ to see if there's any questions from the audience, and if not, we can wrap up. MJ.
There is, but we're at the hour. I think what we're going to do is take some of the questions and reach out to the people who asked them with some answers, and then we can set up calls if they want to look at any demos in more detail or have something customized. Yeah, that's what we're going to do, because we're just actually over the hour. But thanks, Mark. That was great. That was very valuable. And thanks to the audience and everybody that joined. And a special thanks once again to Hannes. Bye, guys.
You're welcome. Bye, guys. Bye.